Large groups and parties. Dalton Conley defines a small group as a group characterized by face-to-face interaction, a unifocal perspective, lack of formal arrangements, and a certain level of equality. So I characterized the small group as 1. An assemblage for a common purpose, 2. Each member is an equal member, and 3. It lacks any formal structure. An example of a small group is a study group where everyone is focused on one topic. Conley states a party is a group that is similar to a small group but multifocal. A party's characteristics are an assemblage for multiple purposes, every member is an equal member, and it lacks a formal structure. An example of a party is a study group where everyone is not focused on one topic. Smaller interactions may happen within the party that cause the party to have side conversations. In other words, the party becomes multifocal. Conley said a large group is a group characterized by the presence of a formal structure that mediates interaction and consequently status differentiation. A large group's characteristics are 1. That it has formal structure and members are stratified by their status. An example of a large group is a classroom where there is an established teacher and his or her students. There is a formal structure to a classroom setting. The teacher teaches and is respected by their students, while the students learn from them and the teachers grade them on their work and efforts. A teacher may also mediate for an argument between two students. Moving on more specifically, there are 2 categories for groups. The first is a primary group. Dalton Conley defines this group as a social group that is composed of face-to-face interactions that strongly influence the attitudes and ideals of those involved. The other is a secondary group. As Dalton states, it is marked by impersonal and instrumental relationships. Next, I move on to compare and contrast these two. Primary groups have personal intergroup connections, while secondary groups have impersonal relationships. Within primary groups, the relationships forged influence an individual more than those in secondary groups. Established roles are more important in secondary groups. Secondary groups may compete with other groups, while primary groups do not feel the need to compete. Secondary groups are a means to an end, while primary groups have a stronger purpose and usually do not just end. The similarities between the 2 groups are that they classify groups by their inner relationships, and each group usually has some common goal or goals. Finally, I would like to evaluate a claim. The claim states, secondary groups can form into primary groups. This statement is semi-strong. I believe that some relationships can form in secondary groups that grow into being a part of primary groups. For example, in a workers' union. Some friendships may form within the union that last even when that friend leaves the union. However, I do not believe that the whole secondary group, or the union, can become a primary group, since the secondary group has a means to an end, so people will be joining and leaving for their own reasons, so the bond of the whole group is relatively weak.
Created using Powtoon.